Trigger warning. This podcast episode contains details from emotional abuse survivors. Welcome back to Emotional Abuse is Real. I'm your host, Sarene Leeds, and I'm so glad you're here. As always, before we get started, I just want to thank everyone who has listened, subscribed, rated, and reviewed this podcast so far. And on that note, here's a quick reminder to please follow me on Instagram at Sarene Leeds Writes. That's SareneLeedsWrites, and on Twitter at Sarene Leeds, SareneLeeds. And as of this week, no more blue check mark. Whatever. Also, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe to this podcast, as well as take a moment to rate and review it on Apple Podcasts. I'd also like to request that you share this podcast with your own social media networks or just with anyone you think might benefit from listening to these stories. Every download, subscription, rating, review, and share helps this podcast reach more people every day. I know this to be true because for the second week in a row, I'm honored to announce that this episode features an emotional abuse survivor who reached out to me because of this podcast. Today, I'll be chatting with a young woman named Liz, who was emotionally abused by her stepmother. For the sake of her privacy, I will be referring to Liz by her first name only. While Liz has been setting boundaries with her family for several years already, she is still only at the beginning of her healing journey. I am so grateful to Liz for being so transparent with me and for giving me the opportunity to share her story with all of you. On that note, however, as I say on this podcast regularly, I am not a mental health professional. Therefore, I will always recommend that people who have experienced emotional abuse seek out licensed therapists and not to use this podcast as a substitute for professional mental health treatment. Finally, I just wanted to say that I understand that the content on this podcast may be difficult for many of you. I've spoken to several people who want to listen to this podcast and who do want to share their stories, but they just don't feel ready to do either yet. I'm here to tell you that I completely understand your decision. As I've done on previous episodes, I am more than happy to narrate your story if you don't feel comfortable appearing on the podcast. Also, please know that it's taking me nearly a decade after my own emotional abuse experience to be able to talk about it so openly. I'm always happy to chat with you over Instagram DM or via email. My email address is hello@sareneleeds.com. Anyway, without further ado, here's my conversation with Liz.
I'm 25 years old, and I've been, I would say, on my own, I guess, since I was 18 for sure. I'm the oldest of six, blended family, family with divorce in it, some typical things, some not so typical things. But as I've gotten older, I've realized, looking back, like, years and years of emotional abuse that I've experienced. And so, in trying to get better with myself or to cope with it myself, that's what led me to your podcast. And
I'm honored. I'm glad you're here. I look forward to hearing your story, and I can assure you that there are a lot of people out there who want to hear your story. So, Liz, please tell me your emotional abuse story in your own words.
so I said I was the oldest of six. Yeah, there's six of us.
Yes.
So just a little background, my growing up, just from zero to here, how I getting here now today. Um,
Yeah.
my parents divorced at a young age. My mother, she decided she was going down another path, which I get
Yeah.
too much to today, because that's just a different story. But anyway, my mother
Yeah.
chose another pathway, and let's just say she wasn't really around. So my dad, he had us siblings full time, and it wasn't long after my mother left, which I don't have a great memory on my childhood. Like,
Hmm.
and I guess by great memory, I mean like I really don't remember much. Like not just good things or bad things or not some fun things. Um, but shortly after my mother left, and if I look back and I recall, it was about a year. My dad remarried. We met this lady, and she became my stepmom like a year and a half later, something like that.
Hmm.
And
And how old were you when that happened, and how old were you when your mom left? Because you were raised by your father, but yeah,
so I was, I think, like 7. Yeah, I was like 7 because I just looking back what grade I was in. Like I told you, bad.
yeah. No, I would love for the listeners
Yeah,
to get an idea of how young you were when all of this
I
happened to you.
I was
Yeah,
7. I think they were married by 8, and being the
yeah,
oldest, my siblings at the time, I was the oldest of 4. Each of them were
right.
we were all 2 years apart. So um,
Sure, yeah, but still, that's very young for someone to have to deal with
yeah,
that kind of
at the
trauma. Yeah.
time, it seemed like I was the only person at well, one of the very few kids at school that had parents getting a divorce.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I remember the day my dad told me what was going on. He picked my sister and I up from school. We went to the park, and he got us chocolate milk and just told us. And but when my mom left, it wasn't anything easy because, I mean, she was like gone. I think she went
Yeah.
to Indiana to see some family, but she has some mental health issues she was trying to get addressed. But just if you think about it, mom leaving and my dad, and it's
Yeah.
hard and it's whatnot. I mean, my dad and I, that created a strong bond between us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if just down the line when my dad and stepmom met, like I was so happy. Like she was awesome, like so fun and everything that you could like dream in a stepmom. And she
Yeah.
was like my mother. I We didn't go shopping, like we didn't do things like that. Like, and my mom was honestly really spiritual, like very spiritual, like
Mm.
would speak in tongues when we were driving down the road, and I'd be like, "What are you doing?" Um, and like no nail polish. Like we didn't celebrate Halloween. Like really,
Mm.
I didn't think much of it. And
What particular religion was that?
Christianity, but like extreme Christianity.
Yeah.
And like at one point when I was little, my mother was like the lead singer in the church. Like at a back, okay.
Mm.
So and that's what she was known for. But um so my then it
Okay.
wasn't long down the line, like maybe a year or so, I remember my dad and my stepmom got engaged, and so
Yeah.
excited. And then, um, I mean, yeah, we did normal family things. I think like you know,
Mm-hmm.
we were still
Mm-hmm.
involved in sports and or gymnastics, tennis, things like that. She would come home from work. They both worked full time, and we would do like
Mm-hmm.
going on family walks or doing this as a family. And then they got
Mm-hmm.
married, and I went from being like, I remember driving down the road with her saying, I cannot wait to call you mom. I really, like, I remember it very vividly. And they
Sure.
got married. And I don't know, it's just like one day her and I were like very, very close. The next
Mm-hmm.
day, one day just not on the same page. And
Yeah.
I really don't remember like the little things that caused it, but over time, when I like it wasn't just like one or two things that caused it, but I would, talk to friends, family, like women in I mean, I don't even know if it was church or school, but ladies in my life, I would just talk with them. And
Yeah.
then I realized it was all making full circle. And my stepmom was like finding out that I was venting, talking about her. I was talking about her. Um, and
Yeah. These people who you trusted in a way
in a
betrayed
way, yeah,
you.
I mean,
Yeah, in a way. I mean, I know betrayal can mean many,
yeah.
many, many things, but you were confiding in them for
And they were
support.
with me.
Yeah.
Like, they were making
Yeah.
me feel like, yeah, we can see it. We see what you mean. Like,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
anyway. um, didn't
Yeah.
forget, and yeah. But so fine. And when we were, I guess the reasons, like, I don't even know if it was chores or pitching in or just any reason why we wouldn't be getting along, or my stepmom and I
Yeah.
arguing, but there was really not like there wasn't like screaming and yelling, but you would I felt like if I just didn't say, okay, yes, you are right, um, like if I didn't, then it would the conversation would never end. We would never move on. And like, okay,
Mhm.
like if we want peace, just yes, I agree. But like, and I would agree with her on some things, but like maybe not to the extent. Um, like I don't know, as a kid, and I don't remember what things would have been done, but not even just me or my siblings. If you were, if you got caught like lying, like essentially lying about whatever it may be, like permission or the Netflix password or eating something or whatever it may be, like if you got caught, like you're a liar, 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 and like I just I mean I can just hear it. I can just hear it like looking back.
Yeah.
So a lot of labeling, like we would be,
Yeah.
and eventually, like when that happens so many times, you give up and like you, it's your way or it's you know
It's her way or the highway, and it seems to me and please correct me if I'm wrong, but you start to believe it.
uh, yes, yeah, in a way, but I'm very like I don't know what it is, but I can take a lot of I don't know ridicule or whatever it may be. I can take it, and I can still know in my heart if my intentions were truly pure, or if I really didn't mean any like nastiness. Like I don't. So I think
Mhm.
that's a good thing. But
Absolutely, absolutely. If you knew deep down that when she called you a liar, if you knew that she was wrong, then that's good. Then that's great.
yeah, and
Um, because to do something like that, if you know that you deep down are not a liar, but she keeps saying you are, you are, you are, I'm right, you're wrong. Again, I am not a mental health professional, but that sounds like a form of gaslighting, and that's very common in emotional
yeah,
abuse, making you think a certain thing when it is not
yeah,
true.
and
And it sounds like she was on a bit of a power trip, which is also common in emotional abuse, definitely in my
I mean,
situation.
power trip. Would you tell me exactly?
Oh, of course. So a power trip is when someone becomes like obsessed with being the one in control, and like again, they're the one that's right, you're wrong. What they say goes. Those kinds of things. That's what was happening to me. Just to give you an example, that's what was happening to me with my boss at Rolling Stone because he was a manager of a small group of people, and that was a huge part of his identity. That made him feel like a strong person, but he abused that so-called
For man,
power, making yeah, with in as a manager when I knew that in a lot of cases he was wrong and he was calling me out on things I that I wasn't doing anything terrible. I was basically doing my job and I did it well, and in many cases I did it better than him, and that made him feel that intimidated him. So that's where a lot of power trips come from. They feel intimidated by the other person. And in a situation where this is a family member, a stepmother and a stepdaughter, to feel intimidated by a stepchild, that again, I am not a mental health professional, but that cannot be healthy in a family
that no, that's
dynamic.
100% what went on, and I don't live there anymore.
Okay,
I assume it's still going, but
right,
that's just that. I mean, I live in a
right.
very small town, and my
Hmm.
family, my dad's one of six. I have a lot of family, extended family, a lot of cousins. Family,
Hmm.
like they have local businesses, and my family's well known, so that could make sense. But
Hmm.
I don't know. We were just the kids. I mean, she would come home from work, and it went one day of, yeah, let's make dinner or go on a bike ride or do something together, to come home, getting her food, going to her room, shutting the door, or coming home bad mood, like, okay, like, we just have to deal with
Right,
it. Hi mom, how was your
right.
day? How could I get you anything? And just sucking up, or just really trying to do everything you can to remain on the good list, because there was always a good and bad list. Like, always somebody, and it would just be rotating. If it wasn't me, it was my brother, and if it wasn't my brother, it was my other sister. If it wasn't her, it was my other sister.
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
really, really messed up my relationship with my siblings, because
Mm.
all of us were like fighting, like, literally, it's horrible. Like, to make yourself look good, it's like you almost had to, mm, be you have to, like, throw your sibling under the bus, or not throw them under the bus, but, like, in every way make yourself look good by putting someone else down, or just maybe doing something like as a sibling, like, you just shouldn't do. And I do not
No.
blame my sisters, and I honestly have probably done it myself in a really indirect way, or really unintentional, because I don't I just, as the oldest, I don't know. But I
Well, it sounds to me that she was, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, she was forcing you guys to compete with each other. And that's not right. I mean, sure, all siblings are gonna fight and they're gonna have arguments. They're not always gonna get along. You can ask my brother and sister. But to kind of instill this attitude of, just to get her attention and her respect, that wound up driving a wedge between you and your siblings. Again, um, I saw that happen. With me at Rolling Stone. My boss would do that between me and the other people in our department. He was very good at instilling. Um, there was no group unity. Like because he knew that I was not going to do everything that he wanted, so he did everything he could to make sure that I had a terrible relationship with my colleagues, which absolutely happened. and it was a horrible feeling. It was like I was iced out. So I get that, and that is emotional abuse. That is not healthy. That is not
And
healthy at all.
I just want to also, I want to go back and say, in the beginning when I started, I said I've been on my own since I was 18.
Hmm.
I That could maybe look different to people, whatever, on my own means. But when I say on my own,
Hmm.
I moved out of my house and I had different relatives that gave me a place to stay for either free or for very, very cheap. So had a
Hmm.
I had a helping hand for a couple years. And so I
Yeah.
just, because another part of the emotional abuse that I endured from my stepmother was, you act like you were on your own. You weren't, you had help. You weren't out there working 3 jobs, pay your bills, you know, eat. I had help. And,
But so let me ask you this: if you were on your own from 18, did something happen that drove you to make that
well,
decision?
yeah. And so, and as early as I can remember, is when my stepmom and I, and
Hmm.
not even just me, my siblings, at times, like I told you, we always have to have an enemy. When we were on the
Yeah.
bad list, or not on the same page as her, our dad, he is very, like, everybody get along, can just people pleaser. Like, everybody loves my dad, honestly. Like,
The
yes, a
peacemaker.
peacemaker, not one to
Hmm.
scream and yell. Um, and just I I did what I did what he said, but just, I know, just get through it. Kind of like, do what she says, or just, let's all just agree. And like, years and years of that basically was my dad telling me one thing, telling my stepmom another, and then them together, it was, he's on her, they're on the same page, talking to me, and it's like mixed signals, mixed messages, like, okay,
Hmm.
like
Hmm. That's what
like
that sounds
and
like. Yeah.
I don't know if I really was doing something horrible. I don't think my dad would, I don't, tell me that he agrees with me or tell me one thing, but that really messed with me because it's very frustrating. And as much as it stunk and was horrible, and you wanted to just like scream, like, "Mom, this is bullcrap," like, and know, you don't. And um, that, I mean, it got so bad to the point where I was like 3 or 4 months from graduating high school. And my dad's like, I know, just tough it out. Like, when you graduate, move in with this relative. Like, you just, the day you graduate, let's make it happen, because when you'll be 18, you'll be graduated high school, and like, I need peace in this house, and like, it's not happening. And so that's what I did. We went on. I was in trouble. I do not remember what it was for, but she could remember, but I do not remember. We went out of town, and it was all of a sudden, oh, life is great. And the other people were around, which really plays a factor in how, what mood she decided to be in, or when. And
Hmm.
we went out of
Hmm.
town, and I mean, it's, let's get hot chocolate. Let's do this. Like, get to the front of the line. Like, well, here's some money for shopping. To We get home. We got home very late, and then the next morning, I mean, it's like banging pots and pans. We're back to reality. She is not happy, and oh no, I didn't forget what you did. You're still, no, I didn't forget. Like, you're still in trouble, and it's back to reality. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I just I cannot take it. It was a Saturday morning. It was a beautiful morning, and she was, I call it lecturing me, because it would be like this: pin you, stare you down, yell at you, bring up at least 3 or 4 things from the past that you had thought you moved on from, but you didn't, rehash them
Mm,
out, and then it's just kind of like staring at, like almost like to the point where it's like staring through her, like, oh my word.
mhm.
And I, about a week prior to this, my car, the transmission went out, so it was in the shop, and
Yeah.
I just could not take it. It was like the last hair just bing gone, and
Yes.
I just like, uh-huh. And we walked to the garage, and she's like looking at me like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, just pulled the bike out, got on the bike, and I started pedaling down the driveway. And she's like,
Mhm.
"Liz, Liz, Liz," and I'm like, "Nope." I called my grandmother, and
Mm-mm.
I'm like, "Well, Grandma, I'm moving in. Like, it's time. I cannot." And I never went back. And
Mhm.
my dad and I and my stepmom, I went over there, I think it was like 2 or 3 times to try to, sit down, let's figure this out. And no, it just wasn't happening. And I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I will tell you I'm completely wrong and everything, like whatever. But I was done. I couldn't take it anymore. I
Yeah.
couldn't take it. And I mean, was I was motivated. I was a good kid. So I thought, like, or what I would consider a good kid. I was, you know, involved. I worked. I had, I mean, I was involved in the community. I was a few things, and I won like a couple of the things that she had said, which I feel like it's. I mean, I'm 25 now, so it's just ridiculous to say it sometimes, but I won homecoming queen, right? Well,
Mhm.
anybody could have won homecoming queen. Like, that's
Mhm.
not anything. And it's like I told you earlier, it's like she can tell you, like, you're a liar, but I know I'm not a liar. And so I don't let it affect
Right?
me.
Yeah.
But like I know she is wrong. Like, she's so wrong to say that. And that was a very enjoyable thing for me because um my whole school voted for me and I won for maybe a reason. But like say that just like
Yeah.
speaks volumes on her and um, just getting away with it, still having to deal with.
Just not being supportive of something like homecoming queen. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, is it really going to matter in the long term? No. But in that moment, that was an accomplishment. And the fact that she couldn't be supportive of that, she had to make you feel badly about that. That's that again, that is emotional abuse. That is not healthy. Like it doesn't serve anyone to stoop
Yeah.
that low,
Uh, in
you
fact,
know?
so as of today, my dad and I have
Hmm.
look, we have no relationship. And thinking
Hmm. I'm
about
sorry. Yeah.
the pictures that I have with my dad and my mom,
Hmm.
and typically on Facebook, I'm friends with a lot of my friends' parents, and they're
Hmm.
posting like "Happy birthday to my kid," and they're tagging their kid, and they're like, "My
Yeah.
parents don't." Well, my stepmom has Facebook, but I've never been posted, and I like looking back, I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know, like that's it. It
It
just is
hurts.
not. I don't know. It hurts, but it's like no. It's more like oh, like I wish I could have had that. I don't know. And
Sure.
honestly, like the way that
Sure.
that affects me today is, and I have to really be careful. But in my relationships, I'm like, it might be so petty, but like I want to be like made like really special, which I do feel special, but like I probably have really high expectations just because I didn't get that as a.
Yeah. You just want to be
And I
acknowledged.
was actually thinking about it when I what in high school when I won homecoming queen, supposed
Hmm.
to walk with this kid, and he ended up getting expelled or suspended that Friday morning when the pep rally at the football game and the whole coming thing is
Oh.
supposed to happen at the
Yeah.
halftime Friday Night Football.
Yeah.
Well, he got suspended that morning, and I was originally let down on Monday when they announced who was on the homecoming court because I had always thought that you could pick whoever you wanted to walk with you, and
Mm.
I was wrong, and I'm like, "Oh, man," because I wanted my dad to walk with me, but I was wrong.
Hmm.
Well, then that morning when he got suspended, they're like, "Liz, can your dad walk with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, he can." And so that was really
Hmm.
awesome, and I have a photo with him, but I was looking back and I don't have any really many photos with my parents, and
Hmm.
I mean, that stinks. I wish I did. But like it's silly, and
Of
I'm not
course.
trying to like put all the blame on her, my stepmom, but my relationship I have with my dad as of today, or I guess I should say the lack of, is
Hmm.
a is a cause of just how things were just dealing with her. Um,
Yeah. I feel really badly for you that your dad doesn't have your back. Um,
well,
and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's unfortunate because obviously my mother is still not in my life, never has been.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but that's just what it had to like that was the result, and um,
yeah. You had to do what was best for you, and that meant setting up these kinds of hard boundaries because you have to take care
yeah,
of yourself mentally and
that
physically.
as much as I love my dad and I would,
Sure. Yeah.
my dad's this or my dad's that, he's the best in this, he's that, and like I look back and I'm like that was like that's so hard because for years, like
Hmm.
since I was 10 and now I'm 25, like he's telling me one thing and we never could be close. Like I could probably count on one hand how many times like him and I have hung out one on one, and
Hmm.
um, just a whole like all that whole entire time walking on eggshells, and
Yeah.
every holiday after I moved out, like there would be periods of time where we would be getting along, and that was because it was a holiday was coming up, or just because my stepmom was deciding like we're gonna get along now, and things like snap her fingers, and all of a sudden it's wow, I really can see how Liz is trying, or Liz has changed, or Liz is this, or I can really see a difference in your sister or your brother. And it's like, what do you mean? Like, none of us changed. It was just you decided that like things were going to be okay. And my family's pretty big. So holidays are typically like held at, someone else's house and rotated each year. But every Christmas is
Yeah.
held at my dad's house. Christmas, my
Mm.
stepmom, she throws a great party. She
Mm.
decorates and she knows how to be a host. And it was a nice
Hmm.
party she would always throw. And depending on the year, like there's probably at least two or three Christmases that I did not go to because I literally simply wasn't invited. Um, and that's not the only holiday. So just depending on how things were, it's I've missed out on a lot, and
Yeah.
that is abusive, like emotionally
Yeah.
abusive because I don't know. That's it's like pretending like I'm not here, and she would always do that, whether it would be the silent treatment or not inviting me or not responding. Like that, her way of like showing me is the silent treatment, which ultimately means like you're pretending I'm not here. Like you, it might sound so silly, but like you pretending I'm not here is like really showing me how important I am. Like no, the complete
It's
opposite.
not silly.
And
No. Yeah. It's a no win situation for you because you want and deserve family. You love your family, of course. But at the same time, you don't deserve this kind of treatment. This kind of treatment is not healthy for you.
and yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I'm not trying to be all over the place, but
No, no, no. It's
I,
fine. That's when I pop in.
I, I mean that just went on whether I was living in their house or not. Like I've lived in two
Hmm.
different apartments, And whether we're on the same page, all getting along, they never bothered to come to my apartment, out to me,
Mm.
um, like really know what I do, like my job. They know I was a sales rep for a window
Mhm.
company, but not like I want to sit here and talk about the ins and outs of my job with them, but like I don't know, I'm just like just did it by myself. And the relationship I had when we were good was okay to my stepmom, like what just kissing up, like what can I do? And because I didn't know how to act and I just wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be included and I wanted a relationship with all of them. Like genuinely, I would
Mhm.
love one with her, but like that's just not
Sure.
not possible. Um, so
Spending your
yep,
life just kissing up to her and making sure that she's happy without any concern for you, without her showing any concern for you, is no way for
yeah,
you to
no,
live.
never. I mean, yeah, never. Um,
Can you give me just a couple more examples of what it was like for you growing up in the same house with your stepmom? Just some more examples of emotional
um,
abuse.
always like if I'm coming to her or I'm telling her a story about a friend or something at school or something that I happened when I was with my cousins or just something, and it's completely innocent and I'm just trying to have conversation, but always
Mhm.
just be like, uh, she would somehow find a way to find like something I did with it, like within my conversation and flip it back on me, and now all of a sudden, like
Hmm.
I can't come up with an example right at this moment, but like I just remember
Yeah.
multiple times being like, okay, forget I said anything. I wish I didn't even had said anything at all because I was literally just coming to you for trying just that's what you do. I don't know. Have a conversation. Just talk about something positive or something just in my life. And now all of a sudden you're just taking something I said and you're twisting it and you're like, so you that let me know there was no such thing as uh, just having a normal conversation with her.
Yeah. Did it feel like she was always trying to find,
Yeah, yes.
yeah, that
Kind of
you
thing.
did
I mean, there was
something
many
wrong?
times. I mean, whether it was me or my siblings, but if we were home that weekend, he came home
Mhm.
and she went rummaging through your room and your drawers. And this was one time I don't know if it was like end of the quarter, end of the period, or whatever it was. I came home with all my grades and I was like, oh crap, I was the best student, and I had like D's or something on a couple tests or assignments, or I don't even know what it was. But I was like, I'm hiding this because that's what kids do. Like that's. But
It is, yeah, it is.
I came
It
home
is. Yeah.
and oh, they're all laid out, rolled out on my bed, and I was like, oh crap. I mean, just at any
So she went
yeah,
through your
and
stuff.
I I did some stupid things when I was little. Like I had a phone that she didn't know about. I hid it, and I I don't know. I was having to hide things. Or not having to hide things. I just did stupid kids as a stupid teenager, or stupid things as a stupid teenager.
Sure. I mean, everybody does that, but if you felt the need to hide things from her, that just goes to show that you did not have a comfortable, a healthy relationship.
No, I mean
Yeah.
there was, and to this day, like she will literally tell you it was right, and my dad will literally tell you that was the right thing. But we all had chores. It was like
Hmm.
A, B, C, and D because four of us kids, and it rotated every week. And like if you didn't do that, you're you're like it was serious consequences. And there was like two times. One time I was on whatever letter it was, and I had to. scoop the cat litter for the week. And I scooped the cat litter and I had it in the bag and I had it by the front door. And I ran right past it the next morning going to school. And I came home and that cat litter in the bag was on my bed. What the, like, that is disgusting. And
Yeah. Just
but
because
then
you didn't put
forgot
it
to
like in
take
the
it out to the
trash.
trash. Yeah. More responsible. Be more responsible while I get pink eye from cat litter. Like, it's fine. She got rid of that.
that that is not okay. That is not how you teach someone a lesson. That is not how you encourage someone
No, that
to make sure you
really
take it
not
out.
like
That's
you. And then one time, my sister, she was on garbage duty for the week. Big family,
mhm,
a lot of garbage. And she pulled
wow.
the garbage out, or she tied it in the bag. She either tied it in the bag and left it at the front door like I did with the cat litter, or either she forgot to take it out in general, like the whole thing completely. Well, yeah, we came home from school that day and the garbage was in the bag, tied up, at least 3 or 4 bags on my sister's bed. I mean, you walked in the front door and you could smell literally curdled milk. And my sister and I shared a room, so I got the yeah, punishment for that one too. But that's disgusting. And it's like that's cool.
That
That's and
that's
my
not okay.
sisters, they ever all of us got in trouble for different things, and in some cases we were wrong and we shouldn't have done that. And if something was
Yeah, but yeah, but everybody makes mistakes. It's the way
well
you handle
mistakes, but
it.
like having texting someone you shouldn't be texting, or stupid, I don't even know. But my stepmom would like tell our family about it. Like she would tell, like, just tell people and like talk about it. And I felt like embarrassed because something I did like were embarrassing and I
Yeah.
shouldn't have done them. And same with my siblings, but like, well, now this is embarrassing because you just told so many people. And like,
Yeah, that see, doing something like that doesn't help anyone heal, doesn't help them learn that okay, maybe they made a mistake. You already covered it, but rehashing it with other people, all that does is
yeah, and I'm
embarrass
not
you.
like, if if they were listening right now, I would say yes. And some things that I did was wrong, and I lied, and I'm sorry for lying. I learned from it, and I genuinely know I'm not perfect. Like, but it's really all
Sure.
in how it was delivered to me, and
Uh-huh.
it just didn't feel like love. Like I took Advil when I without asking. I had a headache. I don't remember if I was a freshman or if I was in 7th grade or what, but shouldn't have been taking Advil by myself because yeah, I don't know what the milligrams mean on it. I don't know, so ultimately she was doing good by helping me. One time she saw me reach for Advil and the hammer comes down. What are you doing? Do you even know what milligrams? Do you even know this? And she's asking all these questions that I don't know. So she made her point, but then to take it to the extreme of, that's that's what a pill popper would do, or that's like comparing,
No.
that's where it's just like wrong. And
Yeah. Yeah. The way you handle something like that is, do you have a headache? Okay, next time you need to take medicine, come to me
because if you
and I'll
don't,
give
you
you
take
some.
too much of this or this, like that could damage your organs and you could become sick and go to the hospital. Like that's the way. I mean,
Yes, that's right. Yes. Right, right. Yeah, telling you that you're going to become a pill popper is
mhm.
damaging.
One thing, and if
So
how
sorry.
the overall relationship was, time I
Mhm.
was, I think is either a freshman or sophomore in high school, and I had a cold, and I took NyQuil, and so I was kind of drowsy. I was sleeping, but I woke up to get some water, and I go to the kitchen, got my
Yeah.
water, and my stepmom, she happened to be in the kitchen at the same time. And what is it? Flash on the lights. It's time to rehash this again because I had been yelled at, or her and I just I was on the bad list again from hours before, whatever it may be. And she's yelling at me, and I'm looking at while I'm
While
freaking
you're
sick, while I'm
sick.
like fighting Advil, and I just boom, I collapse. I just fainted, and my head
Oh,
smashed against the wall. And my dad,
oh, I'm
it's
so
my stepmom
sorry.
goes, she's yelling his name, and he comes down, and he's like, "Well, you got your wish." Slams the lights off and runs upstairs. Yeah, he was joking,
What?
but I'm sorry. Has truth to
Yeah,
it, right?
that's not funny.
But like, she doesn't actually want me dead, but you do. She's done something enough to where it's yeah.
So what happened after you
Uh,
collapsed?
I got water and I got up and I got an ice pack and went to bed. And the next day, had a gnaw on my head.
And your dad and stepmom went back to sleep while that and you had to take care of
No,
yourself.
she brought me an ice pack because she felt
Oh, she
bad.
put you in ice
Yeah,
pack.
she
Okay.
felt, and I
Okay.
believe that she had mentioned like, why would you say that or something to that effect, but I don't remember too much. I just remember collapsing,
Yeah.
him saying that, and that's just one of the times. But every single argument that
I'm so
they would
sorry.
have was about me or about a sibling. And when I say about me, I mean like arguing at the fact that like she can't let anything go and that my dad can't like grasp anything. So like he's upset that she can't let anything go and it's just constant
Mhm.
and he's mad because
Yeah.
don't you see this and this and this, and it was just two different extremes. And
Yeah, yeah, she's angry at him because he's not coming down on you as hard as she is, and he's just kind of
yeah,
letting everything
and
happen. So neither is
no,
good for anybody
and
in the family, and certainly not for you.
I don't know, my
Yeah,
mom, I mean, just growing up, like I said, with my dad, stepmom full time, my mom,
yeah,
I would get phone calls at times. There would be occasional time where she's okay, I've got a job, and she's just doing the things to like, in her book, get her life on track. So we would be like, okay, we'll see her at random times, but just she had issues, and my stepmom would always just like bring that up, remind us. I mean, my stepmom was the person that told me my mom got arrested for the first time. And I didn't even ask. I was in the mall and she brought it up because it was
right.
just like, let's talk about people and things and your siblings and let's do this while we go shopping. And like, what do you do as a kid? You engage. And
Yeah.
it was almost like, I made a choice, I'm here and I'm doing this. And I, I took on you four kids and I married your father knowing he had four kids. And, you know,
That
yeah. And
guilt,
it's like,
laying it on thick. Yeah. It's like you said, and I've seen this before. It's
yeah.
all in the delivery. Like I have seen this in so many cases in my life and in other people's life. So much gets ruined in the delivery. So much gets ruined in the delivery. And again, this is a common issue with emotional abusers. Your stepmom is making everything about herself and not thinking about everything you and your siblings have already gone through in your life. Okay, maybe you were kids and you didn't realize what was really happening with your mom. You just knew that she was just gone. But for an adult who's supposed to be a caregiver to make everything worse and not be there to support you,
No,
that's not right. And it sounds to me that
and
that's
it's
what you
not
went through.
like, yeah, like the delivery, but how she
Mhm.
delivered it is how she meant it. Like, she love,
Yeah, and
like
that's
me,
yeah.
and I would constantly tell myself, that's the difference between, on in my book, unconditional love and conditional love.
Mhm. Oh,
And
yes, I know about conditional love. Yes.
yeah, it's just, I and I don't know if it was frustration for her, but like I, I if she ever loved me, like truly, I did not see it, and like I would feel really bad saying that, and like to find out that she really did. And I'm sure like she did at some points, but like you can make a choice to like want to love someone, and wanting to love someone and looking for ways to love them, like that's not like looking for a problem or constantly looking for an issue. Like if you want to love someone, then you're not going to look for for things that someone's done wrong. And uh,
If she does love you, she doesn't have a very good way of
and
showing it.
it's, I mean, honestly, like she's love, if she, well, she does love me, I know, in some fashion I think
Okay.
she does, but I
Okay.
think it's
Okay.
because she's told, like, I mean, if you marry someone with kids, don't you feel like you have to love them? Or I don't know, because there's been good times with her. Like there's been times where a split second where we're not, where nobody's on the bad list, but there's been times like it's, we'll get along,
Mhm.
we'll watch a movie together as a family. I mean, it's just a matter of minutes until that's done and gone. So it's like, yeah, that's joy, and you know, but so that's why I will say you gotta love someone a little bit to be able to have a little bit of joy.
Of
But
course, of course, of course. And and
I
yeah,
don't know.
of course. Of course. Um I just want to commend you for your bravery in telling me this story. Um and I would love to ask you, aside from coming on this podcast, moving out, building your own life, what else have you done to heal yourself?
Um, it wasn't really until recent where I was attempting to heal myself slash, you know, realize I'm gonna just look into the how I feel if others are experiencing it or have experienced it. My version of trying to get help.
Mhm.
Um, it wasn't until
Mhm.
recent because really my whole life it I've been told, you know, it could have been worse, and I had a great life, and I had I lived in a nice house. My parents drove working cars. I could do anything if I wanted to. If I wanted to go, say I wanted to do horseback riding, I probably could have done that. I mean, I lived a nice life, and so you don't complain. Everybody has it worse. I have a stepmom. I have
Yeah.
somebody that was there, and I was always told like I have no room to complain. I have nothing to complain about, and um,
Mhm.
so that I looking back, it's like no. I did experience it. Yes, I didn't. I had a nice life, but like that doesn't mean anything. And it's just I don't know, like trying to like prove why I'm right. Okay. I mean, we got professional we were seeking professional help one time when I was little, and we went to go get
Mhm.
counseling because we were not working out. My dad, my stepmom, and I, like it was bad. I mean, yeah. And we saw a counselor, and it was my parents saw her, then I saw her, then my parents saw her again, and then the next session was supposed to be all of us together. Well, after she met with my parents for the second time after meeting me, my parents came home. My stepmom, mad, slams the door, storms up the stairs to her room. You did it. Congratulations. You manipulated the counselor. Like, you know, and it's like, okay. So I'm always wrong, and I have nothing to complain about, and
Yeah.
I play this woe is me card. How many times did I hear that? And
I'm so sorry that that happened. And I can understand that an experience like that might sour someone's uh, interest in pursuing professional mental health help. Well, you are an adult now, so you don't have to do any. If you are interested in professional counseling, you don't have to involve your stepmom at all because it's all about you. It really is not about her. And one thing I've learned in my emotional abuse experience is that you're not going to change the abuser. There's no point in going in that direction. But anything that you can do to heal yourself, I think is extremely important. So, what would you tell other emotional abuse survivors who might be out there listening right now and maybe they're not listening because it's still a painful topic, or they think like you, they think, oh well, it's just emotional abuse, it's not that terrible, so many people have it worse. I mean, one thing that we talk about a lot on this podcast is that does not matter. Your pain is your pain, your experience is your experience, and it's something that should not
Yeah,
be
I mean,
dismissed.
one thing that I've come to realize lately, and it's not, me trying to have a pity party for myself, but
Mm-hmm.
like feelings are feelings, and nobody
Mm-hmm.
can tell you what you're allowed to feel, what you do and don't feel. Like nobody can tell you that, oh, you're wrong. Like, that's, nobody can justify or tell you the way that you feel. And it's emotional abuse. In my example, it comes in different shapes and sizes and packages. Mine was supposed to be delivered as love, but it really wasn't. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I mean, I looking back, I wish I would have moved out a lot sooner than what I did. Um,
But you did it. And as you said, you're building your own life. And I'm really honored that you found the podcast. And I hope that this helped you in some way, shape, or form. And again, I I know because we've talked on Instagram. We don't know each other that well, but I am proud of you. I do want to tell you that because this is not easy. And as I always like to remind people on the podcast, my emotional abuse experience happened coming up on 9 years ago. And it's only recently that I truly started to understand how bad it was and how it doesn't matter that maybe some people had it worse. This is what happened to me, and it shouldn't have been dismissed the way that it was. The only place where it wasn't dismissed was in my own therapy sessions and in my own family with my husband. He knew that something was wrong and that I had to get out of that situation. But anytime I tried to talk to anybody else, my coworkers, my friends, I mean, this friend of ours understands it now, but the story I always like to tell is my husband and I have this long-term friend who for years always liked to say, I can't believe you resigned from Rolling Stone. How could you do that? It was such an incredible job. And one day, and it took me years, we sat him down, we told him what happened, and only then did he finally understand that it doesn't matter if you have an incredible job, or as a recent podcast guest said, a Pinterest perfect looking life.
well, bullying
It
is
doesn't matter.
bullying, and
That's right. Yeah,
I mean, it is bullying. The abuser is
it is.
bullying, and it.
No, it's bullying. It is bullying. Yeah. Um, so I just want to thank you again for talking to me on the podcast. And do you have any final thoughts you'd like to
I do
share?
not, but thank you very much for listening and for
Of
being
course.
a safe place for me to, or to vent, for understanding and for making
Absolutely.
me feel like I'm
Absolutely.
not crazy.
No, 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 no. And again, this is a safe place. And as I've said on the podcast before, I understand that sometimes it takes people time to be ready to even listen, to talk about it. Absolutely. And there's no rush for anyone. So
Thanks
thank
for
you again. Thank you once again for listening to my conversation with Liz on Emotional Abuse is Real. And thank you, Liz, for sharing your story with me. If you would like to share your emotional abuse story here on the podcast, please don't hesitate to reach out at hello@sereneleads.com or through Instagram at sereneleadsrights. Please note that this podcast should not be used as a substitute for professional mental health services. If you are a victim of emotional abuse and need help, please call or text the Suicide and Crisis Hotline at 988 or call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233. You can also text START, START, to 88788. Thanks so much for listening. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and I'll see you next time.